So today we are going to be talking about pigs, and I'm really excited to show you guys this presentation because we have a special treat for you at the end. So since we have a new friend today, we're going to go over our agenda again. And first we're going to do our introduction. We're going to talk about the origins of pigs. We're going to talk about pig usage. We're going to talk about their behavior and intelligence. And then we're going to talk over our activities and cover some resources. So as an introduction for new friends, my name is Megan and I'm Aiden and Lizzie's mom. And this picture is what I look like when I'm at work and not at my house. And I work at scientist.com. So I work with a lot of people on this call. I work with their moms or dads, either at Scientist or as clients. And I have a background in science. So I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in science, and I love it so much. And I really like to share cool facts, and I like to teach other people about what I know. And today,
Hey.
Oh, can you hear us?
Yes.
So today I have another special fact about me that you might not know, and that is that I actually really like pigs.
Oh,
So this pig is a pig that we used to have at our house, and her name was Charlotte. And Charlotte was a little potbelly pig, and you can see we got her when she was an itty bitty baby. And she was such a good little pig. We really liked her. And she loved graham crackers and marshmallows, and we ended up having to sell her when I moved to California. But I also used to work with pigs, and part of my degree is in agricultural science, so I worked with pigs at school a lot. So I really enjoy them, and I'm excited to tell you all about them. So we're chatting today because you guys are all out of school now. And the other thing is that your moms and dads are still working. And so it's really difficult to give you guys an education, but also get all of our work done. So I'm hoping to help out with some of that. And that's probably why we have some new friends today. So going into it, I'm going to start talking about where pigs come from. And pigs are obviously animals. They're in the phylum Chordata, which means they have a notochord at some point during their development. They're mammals, which means they have hair and they secrete milk for their young. And then they're in the order Artiodactyla. And that order is really interesting. It has a lot of different animals that you guys might know in it. It has the Camelidae, so camels. It has hippopotamuses. It has Bovidae, which is bovines, so cows, buffaloes, cattle. It has Cervidae, which is like deer and elk and reindeer and things like that. And it also has another friend that we talked about earlier, which is the giraffe family. So drilling down into it a little bit more under Artiodactyla, the next subset is the family, and that's Suidae, and then Suinae for the subfamily, and the genus is Sus. And so pigs, if you're drilling down into the family, there's actually 16 species of pigs and hogs in 8 different genera that make up this modern family. And pigs originally occurred across Eurasia and on islands as far away as the Philippines. So they were also throughout Africa. And humans, just like with the canines we talked about before, started introducing these pigs to different places. So now Sus scrofa, which is where domesticated pigs come from, and you can see they have some kind of commonalities in their skull structure, which these are a lot of big words for you guys, but they all have this occipital crest here, and you can see some of them have tusks, and they have different characteristics in their skulls that scientists used to tell them apart and to group them into this family. But humans started kind of domesticating these pigs and spreading them around the world, including North America, New Zealand, New Guinea, and there's fossils of these animals from way back when, like, after dinosaurs, but there's fossils of these animals all around Europe and Asia, and then in Africa as well. And so animals in this family are usually kind of medium sized, and they're kind of stocky and big. They have kind of a body that's like a big old barrel, and their skin's usually pretty thick, and they have really sparse hair, which means there's not a lot of hair for them. So the skull is usually kind of long and flat, and one of the most noticeable things about their skull is that they actually have a cartilaginous disc. So cartilage is the stuff that, like, the tips of our nose and our ears are made of. It's not really bone, it's flexible. And they have a disc of cartilage in the tip of their nose that they can like flex and move around at the tip and by its nostrils. And it's supported by bones and things, but it really allows them to have a lot of function and movement with the tip of their nose. Additionally, all of these animals in this family have 4 digits or 4 like fingers at the end of each foot, and those all have hooves. So getting down more specific into the genus, these pigs, as we know them, are all omnivores. And that means that their diet includes like meat and vegetables or plants and grasses. They kind of eat everything just like we do. And so they'll eat fungus or roots or snails or earthworms, lots of different things. And they use their snout to kind of root around and scratch for all these food things that they're eating. And they also have a 2-chambered stomach. So if you know about ruminants or like cows have a 4-chambered stomach that they use to break down all the leaves and things and hay that they eat. Oh, and Rhea has some pigs too. She has Peppa Pig, I see. But pigs aren't ruminants, so they just have the 2-chambered stomach, a little bit different than ours, but it processes food in kind of a similar way. And one of the other things about pigs is that they're gregarious, which means that they are social animals, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So even more specific in this genus are means that they're even-toed and they're ungulates. So these pigs in this genus include domestic pigs and their ancestor, which is the Eurasian wild boar. And pigs are native to the Eurasian and African continents, like I mentioned before, but now they're kind of all over the place. And there's a lot of different types of pigs, actually. And the ones pictured here are the Visayan warty pigs on the left, and then the Red River hog on the right. And you can see has really funny ear tufts hanging off. So actually, some of these pigs you guys can see at the San Diego Zoo on their cameras that I told you about, I think, during the giraffe lesson. So if you go to their live cams, you can see them. Or you can just look at Ava's camera because she has a cool pig, and we're going to see her pig later. So down to the kind of subspecies, the Sus scrofa domesticus. Domesticus just means domesticated, and these are the domestic pigs. So they're often called swine or hogs or just pigs, and they are kind of a subspecies of the Eurasian boar. So there's a big range of weights because we have domesticated pigs in kind of a similar way to how we domesticated dogs, right? And there's a whole variety of different kinds of dogs. And there's a whole variety of different kinds of pigs. So pigs can be anywhere from like a couple feet long and be pretty small to, adult pigs that get up to almost 800 pounds. So compared to other animals that aren't domesticated, we really have kind of a wide range of different breeds and species. So pigs are used and they've been domesticated for a lot of different things, and that has influenced their traits and behaviors. So one of the really interesting things I found out is that pigs weren't domesticated just one time. It's thought that they actually kind of speciated or separated about 4.2 million years ago. And then they started moving out and diverging. And then they were both two different kind of paths of pigs were both domesticated, which is really, really cool. So remains of pigs have been dated to almost 12,000 years ago in Cyprus. And those animals were introduced there from the mainland because Cyprus is an island. So that really suggests that humans were bringing them over. And there's also a separate domestication event that is thought to have happened in China about 8,000 years ago. So there's actually 2 different lineages of modern pig breeds, but then they've bred back together and been hybridized. So the family tree kind of came out and then came back together, which is really interesting. And they figured all this out from analyzing their DNA. So there's a couple of resource papers in the resources area on genetic diversity in pigs if your parents are interested in learning more. So what this means is that the domesticated pigs have a large number of wild ancestors. And they were actually, a lot of them were bred for different purposes. And one of those purposes is as a food source. So you might see pork or bacon in the store, and people also eat the skin as cracklins and use like their heads for head cheese. There's a lot of different purposes for pork meat that you can find. Another usage for pigs is actually using their bristles. So pig hair is kind of stiff. And so what we see on the right here is a bristle brush for shoes. And so people will shine their shoes with this. And then these are toothbrushes on the left-hand side. And you can actually buy these right now. Instead of getting a plastic toothbrush, you can get a pig bristle toothbrush. And that's something that they used to use, actually. And now we're kind of coming back around to that to try to reduce our plastic usage. But what these are made of is just the stiff hairs from pigs, because instead of having like a lot of tightly packed soft hair or long hair like we do, they have kind of short, thick, sparse or spread out hairs all along their body. The pig skin, besides being consumed sometimes as like cracklins, is also used for leather. So you see here there's a leather belt and there's suede shoes. And the only difference between leather and suede is just which way they're flipped. So the suede is the underside of the leather instead of the top side. And pig skin or pig leather is used pretty frequently in like belts and shoes and clothing. And even though a football is sometimes, or an American football is sometimes called a pig skin, it's actually made from cowhide. So they're not actually pigskin. Pigskin can also be used in the medical field to treat burns, which I thought was really, really interesting. So something called a xenograft or a xenograft, depending on where you're from and how you pronounce it, is done where healthy pigs are picked out and they're kind of isolated for a few weeks to make sure that they're remaining healthy. And then their skin pieces of skin are removed, and then the surface of that skin can be harvested and then transplanted onto a human burn. So you see here, the skin is kind of stretched out and they put these little like kind of slices or holes in it so that they can stretch it more like a mesh and cover the human burn. And that can help keep the underlayers of the skin and like the nerves and the blood supply healthy while we are regrowing our own skin. So that's actually been around for a long time, and pigs are really important for medicine and also for medical research. So this is some of what I used to do at work, actually, because pig's skin is really similar to human skin. We use them a lot to test drugs that are applied dermally or on the skin. So like if you have a patch of medicine or maybe some ointment or something, sometimes we'll test those on pigs. And usually how that works is we shave a part of their back. You can see this pig's a little bit more hairy than we're used to, but we'll shave a part of their back and we'll kind of mark different quadrants, and then we'll apply different levels of the medicine to the pig. And then because they're actually very clean animals, and they tend to like roll around a lot and they're very social, we don't want them to spread that medicine to other pigs. So sometimes we put clothes on them. So you can see over here, these pigs have little pink kind of jumpers on that keep them from rubbing off the medicine, almost like when we put a Band-Aid on over some triple antibiotic ointment after we get a cut. So you'll see the pigs here are actually very clean. And that's one of the most common facts that's kind of known about pigs that's actually not true, is that they're very dirty animals, or like, you know, that you're sweat like a pig or like a pigsty. And actually pigs are very, very clean, as you can see here. And we can also be sure that Ava would not have a pig hanging out in her house if it was a big, dirty, stinky animal. So the other things that pigs do for us is have actual jobs. So pigs can be truffle hogs. And what truffles are is a fruiting body of a fungus. And so that fungus is things like mushrooms, and I guess mushrooms is the only example I can think of. But the fruiting body, part of the truffle, we actually eat. And it's a really kind of fancy, expensive food. So you might see truffle fries or truffle oil being sold. And truffles actually grow in the wild. And pigs can be used to sniff them out, because remember, they have those cool cartilaginous tips on their nose that they can actually operate independently, unlike us. I can't really wiggle my nose around very well, but pigs can, and they have a good sense of smell. So they'll root around and find truffles. And they do that in Europe and North America in kind of a temperate forest zone. And they can actually find these truffles as deep as 3 feet or about a meter underground, which is pretty cool. And one of the things that people think that one of the reasons people think they can find these truffles is because they emit an odor that's kind of similar to male pigs. So some of their hormones. So maybe they think it's like some sort of other pig, or maybe they just know it's a tasty snack. So they will walk on a leash with their trainer. So you can see this guy has a leash there, and the pig has a collar, and they'll go around and snuffle for the truffles, and then the trainer can kind of scoop them up, and I'm sure they get a different treat when they're done. Because obviously if they ate the truffles, it wouldn't be that great for everybody. And the other things that pigs do are behave as pets. So sometimes they can be emotional support animals even. And pigs have a very, remember I said they were gregarious before, so they're very social animals, and they're also very intelligent. So they actually make pretty good pets. One of the biggest limitations is their size. So you don't want a pig that's produced for meat living in your house, because it could get up to almost 800 pounds, and that's probably too much for inside the house. But there's some different special breeds of pigs. One of the ones I used to work with is the Göttingen mini pig, and those are for pharmaceutical research, so I don't think they're available widely, but they actually only get to like 50 pounds, so that's much more manageable. A pig the size of a dog is a lot easier than an 800-pound pig to have walking around your house. So now we're going to talk a little bit about why they make good pets. And that's because they have really interesting behaviors, and they're also pretty intelligent. So one of the things is that pigs are social animals. Wait a second. Is that pig? Are those pigs? I think those might be guinea pigs. Let me fix this. There we go. So pigs are social animals, and domestic pigs will often look for company. So they'll look to live with other pigs, and they kind of like to huddle. So they almost have cuddle piles of pigs. They like to have physical contact, but that doesn't mean they usually live in really large groups like cattle. They actually usually lives in groups of about 8 to 10 with adult females, and then some young individuals, and then a few single males here and there. And some of the behaviors that pigs do that have led us to think kind of silly things about them, one of them is called wallowing. And so when we say that somebody sweats like a pig, pigs actually can't sweat very much, if at all. And so because of that, they have a hard time controlling their body temperature. So like right now in California, it's 95 degrees here today, and a pig would have a really hard time because it couldn't sweat to keep cool. So what they do is they wallow, which means they coat their body in mud. And they usually don't go completely under the mud, but they'll kind of roll around in it. And that can help cool them down. And they might also be using the mud as sunscreen, so to keep their skin from getting burnt by the sun, or to keep parasites away. So it can help to keep fleas and ticks off of you if you're kind of smothering them with mud. And most pigs that have bristles, like this pig you see here, will also do what's called blowing your coat, or shedding, when the seasons change, just like dogs or horses or any other animal with hair does. And they'll shed most of their longer, coarse hair once a year, so in the spring or summer, to prepare for warmer months so that they're not quite as hot. So when we see pictures of like muddy pigs and people saying things are a pigsty, this is what they're picturing, but actually the pigs are just doing this to cool off. One of the other things they do is eat and sleep quite a bit. So domestic pigs actually will eat like for long periods of time if they can, and then they'll take a really long nap. Whereas in contrast to things like cows and horses or ruminants, they'll feed for a short time and then they'll rest for a short time and kind of switch back and forth because of the way their digestion works. But because pigs are more like us, they can kind of eat and chomp, chomp, chomp for a long time and then take a really nice long nap. But that being said, they are very versatile animals, which means they can adapt and change to their environment. So when they're foraging and stuff, they might have different patterns of eating if they're having to find their own food rather than just eat from a trough or get lettuce from their family or something like that. One of their other interesting behaviors is called rooting. And this is an instinctual behavior. So it means they're born with this behavior kind of embedded or implanted in them. It's something that they automatically do. And it's characterized by the piglet nudging her snout into something. So a lot of times that's the mommy's belly so that they can get milk. Kind of similar to when cats knead. If you've ever seen your cat do a little bit of kneading, That's a behavior that cats do to get milk from their moms. And so rooting from pigs usually starts out with getting mom's milk, but then later they'll root and dig around in the ground to forage for food. And you can see this pig here is rooting around in the ground. And then this field, as you can see, is all torn up. And that's because this farmer has some wild hogs that he's having a problem with. And the wild hogs are tearing up the field. So often one of the ways you can tell that you have a pack of these feral hogs in your area is by seeing fields kind of torn up like this because they're rooting around looking for food.
Megan.
Yes.
Do pigs play?
They do play. They can play, and I'm going to show you a video of one playing in a little bit, okay? I'll tell you how smart they are. Mm-hmm. So another cool behavior that they do is nesting, and we don't really think of nesting associated with animals very often that aren't like things like birds, but pigs actually like to kind of make a little depression in the ground. So they'll kind of dig a little hole in the ground, like kind of long, shallow hole, and then they'll get like twigs and leaves and things and kind of make a ring about it and build like a mound. So then all the soft and fine stuff kind of goes to the center for her to lay on and have their piglets. So, and then she usually lays down to have piglets, which is different from the other animals in the artiodactyl family that I mentioned before. Like, remember how giraffes stand up to have their babies? Pigs actually lay down. And so you can see here, she's got a nice little nest going where she's laid in to have her piglets. And then finally, pigs are really, really smart animals. And we've only kind of hit the tip of the iceberg as far as discovering just how smart they are. Pigs have been taught to play video games in some trials. A researcher actually made a special joystick for the pigs to manipulate with their mouths, and they were able to solve problems with the video game, problems that only primates had been able to solve before. And the pigs in this study were so clean and intelligent that they actually did, we call it housebreaking. They housebroke themselves, which means they taught themselves to use the toilet in a correct place. So they, instead of just going like poop and pee wherever, they picked a corner on their own and used that to do all of their business. So they kept the rest of their pens clean. And these pigs also, at the end of the time playing with all their toys, since they had a whole bunch of toys, which we call enrichment for lab animals, they would put all their own toys away in the big tub that the toys were supposed to go into. So it's almost like when you're done playing and you put your toys away in a toy box or maybe on the shelf, the pigs were putting their own toys away at the end. So pigs are really smart. They can learn from other pigs too. So if one pig has already learned something about maybe that a sound means a treat is coming, you can bring in another pig that's never heard that sound, and the new pig will watch for cues from the other pig to know that something is coming and anticipate it. So they can actually kind of read, not emotions necessarily, but they can read situations based on what other pigs are doing, which is really some advanced learning. And people think that pigs might be just as intelligent as like chimps or dolphins even, that they're kind of in that same range of intelligence. And it's pretty impressive. There's a lot of studies that are going on right now to show just how smart they are. And now I'm going to show you a super smart pig. This pig, do you want to tell us who this is, Ava?
Yeah, it's my pet pig named Andouille.
Yeah, so this video, Ava's mom sent to me, and this is Andouille doing some really cool tricks, and I think you guys will enjoy this. So I'm going to hit play here. Okay, sit, sit, sit. Good boy, good boy. Oh, mango. Twirl, twirl. Good boy, good boy. Do legs. Come back. Sit. Sit. Weep. Weep. Good boy. Circle. 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 All the way. All the way. Isn't that cool, you guys? He's a super smart pig, and you can see there that they can be taught to do a lot of different kinds of tricks. And this
He's
is
very intelligent.
yeah, very intelligent. So that is Ava's pig, Andouille. And I thought that was a really good example of some of the things that pigs can learn. So you can see they can do tricks just like a dog can, and definitely more tricks than my cat can do, because my cat can do 0 tricks. She just yells to tell us it's time to go outside or it's time to eat. She's very rude.
Yes, very rude.
Yes.
when the thick like door that's not the screen door is not
closed, she yells to go outside,
yeah,
doesn't she?
She's constantly yelling. It's very annoying.
Okay, so now we're going to get into our activities. And there's different, for our new friends, there's different activities depending on your age. So this week, little kids, you can choose a picture to draw. You can draw a member of the genus Sus, or you can draw Andouille doing a trick. And I will make sure to share that with Ava and her mom so that Andouille can see pictures of himself. Big kids can draw and label a picture of a pig, can make a comic about pig domestication, or write a few sentences about the uses of pigs. Middle schoolers can write a paragraph explaining why domestic animals developed, draw a pig behaving in 3 different ways, or create a comic about pig evolution. And then, as you guys know, you can email your homework to me. I'll send a follow-up email to this class with the slide deck, with all the homework and all the resources. And then if you do the homework and email it back to me, we'll do a drawing at the beginning of next week, and the winner gets a $10 gift card to Amazon. And it's sponsored by the company that I work for, scientist.com. So it's really nice of them. And this week we have a whole bunch of different resources. I read a lot of different papers, and I got really kind of overboard because I was really interested in genetic diversity in pigs and how smart they are in things. So if you or your parents are interested in checking these out, please do. The most kid-friendly one is going to be the wild swine, pig, and hog at the San Diego Zoo, where you can see pictures of the different types of pigs that they have at the zoo. And I'm really hoping that I'll get to go and visit this zoo before I have to move away from California. So hopefully everything opens